So the title of Kohrra, I think it's actually a metaphor for not only कोहरा छाया हुआ है केस पे, but कोहरा छाया हुआ है
सबकी जिंदगी में.
हाँ सबकी जिंदगी में.
Why did one had to start a show like this? Was it for a shock value? Was it to get attention of the audience?
Yeah, of course. खेतों में ये होता है आशु जी.
My God, these innuendos, I tell you.
Nalini ji is killing it. I love it.
Nalini ji, I must say there was some Christopher Nolan level of jump to go from Kohrra to another K film.
उसका बात इसलिए नहीं करते because आपको उसका situation तो पता ही है ना.
Exactly.
What is the moral of the story from this show?
बच्चों की सुनो.
हाँ, तालियां. I just want to tell all our listeners that if you haven't seen Kohrra yet, do not listen to this podcast because they are definitely going to be spoilers. You're listening to Dime a Dozen Films podcast. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Dime a Dozen Films podcast. Today's episode is really special because we have a very special guest amongst us. Our regular musketeers, the three of us are there, Ashu Trikha, Saurabh Nair, and we have a guest. I'm going to introduce him in his own words. What he likes to say about himself is he's an Oriya guy who is currently stationed in Bengaluru. He's a corporate junkie by day, and he loves movies, books, and pop culture by night. He's an addict. He loves films. So welcome on the show, Sandeep Padi. I'm going to welcome you before I welcome my two panelists. How are you doing? And thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. We've been wanting to do this for a while, Sandeep.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Nalini ji. And before we talk about anything else, first thing is like, thanks for the kind words of introduction. And let me just start off by saying that I absolutely love these conversations that you people have. The podcast scene is by and large a big cacophony with not much of it making sense. But what I really love is that all three of you take the conversation in a very organic direction. It builds organically. And as a result, we get to hear some very interesting views on films and shows. And like it was mentioned in one of your earlier episodes, you people are indeed clutter breakers. So congrats to all of you. Good job.
Oh gosh, thank you. Thank you so much, Sandeep. What say Ashu ji, Saurabh?
Hello. Before he says hi, I want to say this hello because मुझे समझ भी नहीं आता हाई ग्रीटिंग का है कि हाई बोलते ये कहाँ से फिर से आ गए हम लोग यहाँ पे. But anyway, hello and thank you so much for the kind words, Sandeep. We've been interacting. Sure, I've been reading your Twitter responses to the episode, and it is brilliant to having been able to speak to you personally now. And I'm looking forward to this interaction, absolutely. And you're right, we tend to keep it very organic. We are not rehearsed about anything now that you know, because you're going to be part of the show here. Nothing is rehearsed. We just take it further. And actually, we may even agree to disagree, which is perfectly fine, because that's the beauty of cinema, that you could have different kind of films, you could have different kinds of tastes, and yet you could see the film together. It doesn't matter. So yes, I'm looking forward to this interaction. I'm looking forward to this discussion and this episode as usual. And hello, Saurabh. I think I've taken a little more than your turn. It's your choice to say hi or hello. अब आपकी बारी.
कोई नहीं आशु जी, आप वैसे भी 1 मार्क क्वेश्चन में 10 मार्क का आंसर देते हैं. नमस्ते.
अच्छा, ये कंबल ओढ़ के थप्पड़ मारा मेरे को सौरभ ने. ये मेरे को अच्छा ठीक है, कुछ सीख लूंगा इसमें से मैं.
No, I'm just joking, आशु जी.
ये पता है,
hello,
नहीं पता है. नहीं एक मिनट सौरभ, क्या है ना, मजाक में जो चीज कही जाती है ना बात, वो बहुत गहरी होती है.
आशु जी, एक तो मजाक में जो बात की जाती है, और एक और स्टेट ऑफ माइंड होता है ना, जब a person speaks the truth and only but the truth. What is that state? I don't know if Saurabh is in that inebriated state right now.
You can't handle the truth. Jack Nicholson the quote yaad aa gaya.
Okay. Yeah, Saurabh. So
मैं थोड़ा हटके इंट्रोड्यूस करूंगा. नमस्ते नन्हे जी. and Ashuji, and welcome to Dozen Film. Sandeep bhai, कैसे हैं आप?
एकदम मस्त सौरभ.
Lovely to hear you in our हमारा जो अड्डा है. Welcome to Eagle Gang. आप बिच्छू गैंग में थे.
जोश.
और संदीप सच में बहुत 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 शुक्रिया, because you know you are such a you give us so much encouragement and you're so honest about your opinion, and I really appreciate that in our messages that you send me personally and also what you write on Twitter. It's always honest, so you know, it's, I know nothing of it is put on, and it means a lot coming from someone like you who understands cinema and who also, Ashuji, Sandeep, if I may say so, is he loves listening to podcasts. Am I right, Sandeep?
Yeah, I do. I follow very few podcasts, but I really like listening to the podcasts on films and a few other topics. Yeah.
Right. So for him to say something like that about Dime a Dozen Films is truly special. So should I go on to the topic now?
Absolutely. Looking forward.
All right. So today we're going to discuss a finite series which has caught the attention of a lot of people. There are divergent views, but mostly if you look across the board, because we've all seen it, and I go into a show or a film usually without reading any reviews. I don't do that unless they come up by accident. So I didn't know anything about this show except that I heard from my erstwhile Monne, Saurabh, that that
Erstwhile?
Monne.
Ah.
मोन्ने नहीं है, मोने है ना.
मोने.
सही से बोलिए ना, लीजिए ना.
अच्छा, तो फिर मैं तो फिर पंजाबी स्टाइल में बोल रही हूँ, मोन्ने. Okay.
हाँ, which is a segue to our show also.
Yes.
अच्छा, तो फिर मोन्ने की जगह मुंडे बोल दो.
मुंडे, हमारा जवान मुंडा, मुंडा बिगड़ गया हमारा. तो
नहीं मैं बिगड़ा नहीं, मैं चिट्टा यूज नहीं करता.
तो आज हम बात करेंगे एक शो की जिसका नाम है कोहरा. और सबसे पहले तो मैं एक सवाल पूछूंगी संदीप से, आशुजी से, सौरभ से, कि इसमें 2 आर क्यों है टाइटल में. सबसे पहले तो वो मेरा एक सवाल होगा. ये शो है जो रणदीप झा ने डायरेक्ट किया है, जिनकी अभी रिसेंटली एक और शो आया था, ट्रायल बाय फायर, which was based on the Upahar tragedy. That was also decently made. And so it's directed by him, and we're going to talk about Kohrra. और वो कहते हैं ना, अतिथि देवो भव. मैं सबसे पहले जाऊंगी संदीप जी के पास. Sandeep, what did you think of Kohrra? And how long back did you get to watch it? Did you watch it just a few days ago, or you've seen it when it dropped? So over to you, Sandeep. Your first thoughts about Kohrra.
Okay, so I just a little background on how I approach watching any new show so that it will set some context. I don't read reviews and all of that. In fact, I even ask people not to read my reviews. I always think reviews are a postmortem thing for
Yeah,
a
me neither. I don't read reviews either. Yeah.
The only thing is I either go by some feelers. I definitely watch the trailer because you know, जिंदगी बहुत छोटी है, shows बहुत हैं, time waste नहीं करना है. So I typically tend to watch the trailer, and something about the whole lead up to the film or the show gives me a feeler whether to watch it or not. In case of Kohrra, actually I did not know anything when I went in. And I went in only because of one person and one person itself. And that person is Suvinder Vicky. I came to know that Suvinder Vicky is cast in a lead role in the film. And I said, I don't need to know anything more. He is absolutely my favorite actor of this decade. And that is only based on 3 things or 3 works of his that I have seen. Milestone, which is just a brilliant film and which has a stellar performance by him. And I still can't get that performance out of my head. So that was one. And then there was a show, I don't know if how many of you have watched it. It's a Punjabi show, Cat, that stars Randeep Hooda. So it's not a really amazing show or anything like that. Nothing out of the world, but it's a decent show. And Suvinder Vicky's performance again in that, where he plays a cop, by the way. So I just loved it, and he's playing a cop again. And just for that man, I went in to watch it the moment it dropped. and I like binge watched it, all the six. I think it's 6 episodes long, so I just watched all of it back to back. So initial thoughts on that, I'll tell you that my belief in Surinder Wiki, was vindicated. He did not let me down. After Milestone, probably this is his second favorite performance of him, and again, absolutely brilliant. Uh, I thought it could get into a stereotype where I've seen him play a cop recently in Punjab. Again, a show that involves, among other things, Chitta, as Saurabh mentioned earlier. But those are two different characters, and it's actually the absolute same getup, because he's always in his police uniform in both the shows. Rarely do we see him outside of his uniform. So it's very easy to fall into that stereotype, but I didn't get that. I'm like, okay, that character was different. Balbir Singh is different. So absolutely loved his performance. Even the other actor, I'm sorry, I forgot the name.
Varun Sopti, the other
Varun
cop.
Yeah, and I didn't know that he has acted in television and other things earlier. So I thought it's probably a debut performance. But regardless, the performances were good through and through. However, the more I watched it, and especially by the end of the climax, I started seeing a lot of, you can call it hat tips, you can call it reuse of the same kind of template, but I saw a lot of Patalok in it. And mind you, I did not know that the creators is the same at that point of time, because I went in didn't knowing that Sudeep Sharma was here. So maybe we can discuss it later on, but I'll just do a couple of things just to jog everyone's memory. And we are going for spoilers, right? Or are we not?
Yes. So, in fact, I was just going to come in and say that, yes, there are going to be spoilers in this, because otherwise the podcast will not be interesting. And I just want to tell all our listeners that if you haven't seen Kohrra yet, do not listen to this podcast till you've seen this show, because they are definitely going to be spoilers. And since this is a show based on murder investigation, there will be spoilers. So you're absolutely free to go ahead, Sandeep, if you want to give out spoilers.
But nevertheless, I'll not make any spoiler obvious, and it's to do with who the person is. So it's not anything that direct. But if you all remember, there's a scene at the end when battered and bruised cop goes and confronts the family, or the who are on the other side of or affected by the crime, and he tells them the story of what exactly happened. And if you look at it, what exactly happened doesn't matter, because that is not what gets recorded and documented anyways, the actual truth. But he tells it for a closure on what he's doing, all the effort that he has taken, he has gone through it. It's kind of a closure for him when he confronts and explains, or rather details out the findings to the family. That is exactly what happens in Patallo. Exactly what happens. When Hathiram enters that guy's cabin, the character played by Neeraj Kabi, and he tells him what happened. Again, what happens is of no consequence, rather, it does not get out. But he gets that closure for himself, again in an injured and battered state. So that you see the two cops, their equation. Even there is even a repeat of the template where there is a female constable involved in both Patal Lok and in this one, who are, let's say, more on the unethical side of it, and who give in to bribery and whatnot, right? So, and there are others we'll discuss, but these were my initial things. So I was kind of taken aback when people, or I heard a lot of talk on this, saying this is the best of the year and this is the best in a long time. Not taking anything away from the performances and the fact that it was bingeable, because I watched it, of course, like I mentioned, all 6 episodes at the same time. I wouldn't, and I would be a little careful in choosing my words when I try to bracket this show as something that is great, or like even the best of this year, which for me would be Trial by Fire. And it was this year, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was, and by the same maker. Yeah.
Who directed few of the episodes in Trial by Fire, I guess. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts about it. The rest we'll hear from you people. And
thank you for your initial thoughts, Sandeep. And I will move over to Saurabh now. Saurabh, what were your thoughts about Kohrra?
So Kohrra is an interesting show. मुझे अच्छी लगी. It's a decent who done it. But I saw this after a lot of hype which was happening on social media. और वो लोग बोल रहे थे, जैसे संदीप ने भी मेंशन किया, माइंड ब्लोइंग, दिस इज वन ऑफ द बेस्ट वेब सीरीज केम आउट ऑफ इंडिया. ये सब सुन रहा था मैं. आफ्टर दैट आई सॉ दिस शो एंड आई लाइक्ड इट, बट ऐसा कुछ डिफरेंट नहीं था विच आई हैवंट सीन इन अदर इंडियन वेब शोज. There were many tropes which always happens in these Indian web series that happened in this show also. But this show was good because of its performances, the vibe of the show. Punjab ko jis tarike se dikhaya, the issue which they showcased in the show, the contemporary issue which is happening in Punjab, those things were really commendable. So overall, it's a good show. And if you ask me that if I should I recommend this, I will definitely recommend. But while recommending, I will not say to that person ki mind blowing है, दिमाग घूम जाएगा, मजा आ जाएगा, देख लेना, ऐसे नहीं. It's a good show. Nice. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, nice. Ashuji, oh, you want me to go first, Ashuji, because Ashuji had made a request that he wants to go last.
I'd prefer if I can speak after you.
Sure, fine. Okay, absolutely. Okay, so I saw Kohrra, I think on the second or the third day that it dropped. Like you, Sandeep, I didn't know anything about this show. Okay, I couldn't recognize anybody, and no names were familiar to me, except for Barun Sopti, who you can recognize on the poster. So I got a message saying that, it's getting great reviews. And in any case, I would have watched it. So when I watched it, I also binge watched it. And I usually binge watch shows. And I liked it a lot. I really liked it a lot. And I think the next day or the day after, whatever, I did tweet about it. And my tweet was, finally, there is something that I would like to recommend to people to watch, So that's how much I like the show, for a number of reasons, which we will discuss as we go along. But the top of the line reason for me, and it will remain that, is Suvinder Vicky. Like you said, Sandeep, I was in a kind of a trance watching this person, because for me, nothing that this person did in the show was acting. Not one single frame was acting for me. It was just real. His eyes, his expression. And I'm just going to give one small example. There is this roka ceremony, an engagement ceremony, जहाँ पे वो वरुण सोपती का रोका होता है ना, संदीप, सौरभ, आचुजी, आपको याद है?
हाँ, मुझे पता है.
एंगेजमेंट होती है, तो वहां पे गाना बजता है और ये डांस करते हैं थोड़ा सा. बलबीर सिंह इनका नाम है, शो सुविंदर विकी. And he goes off into a kind of a trance because he's thinking about his past, I really am telling you, when he went off into that trance, I went into a trance along with him, because for a long time, I have not seen such convincing acting on the screen, small or big. And nothing that he did was acting for me. And I could not take my eyes off this actor. But generally, all the other acting was also good. I think every single cameo, every single actor, I could not find a false note when it comes to acting. The setting of the show, and it was wonderful to listen to Punjabi after a long time. It wasn't इतनी ठेठ पंजाबी भी नहीं थी जो हमें समझ में ना आए, मुझे समझ में आ रही थी और अच्छा लगा. और for me, this is not just a crime investigation. This show for me is, yes, there is a murder investigation and everything, cops हैं, पर ये show parents जब अपने बच्चों को पहचानते नहीं, parents जब अपने बच्चों को, and all of them are suffering from this. And there's another thing in this, which, you can call a trope or whatever, is all the main characters are gray. And none of the parents understand their children. They don't let them breathe. They don't let them be what they want. So there's that struggle in all the children, whether it be, we'll speak about the characters later. But what I found extremely underwhelming, and for me, it was a little shockingly underwhelming, was the final climax, because there are little red herrings that they've thrown along the way. End का था ना, तो वो मुझे disappointing लगा, वो मुझे थोड़ा सा unnecessary लगा, underwhelming लगा. और मेरे इसके ना सवाल हैं 2-3 जो मैं पूछूंगी आप लोगों से आफ्टर आशुजी हैज स्पोकन, which for me are questions as to why it happened. But on the show, like I said, if I have to recommend this to anybody, and after a long time, I would recommend Kohrra. I like the dialogues. I like the fact that it's laced with humor. Especially in the first few episodes, there are humorous dialogues which are just, they just say them pat off their tongue. Nobody is making much of it. Nobody is trying to say कि मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ अभी मुझे सुनो, मैं अभी जोक मार रहा हूँ, ऐसा कुछ है ही नहीं इस शो में. तो मुझे मुझे ये शो काफी पसंद आया. और मैंने जो ट्वीट भी जब किया था इसके बारे में, मैंने लिखा था कि फाइनली इसमें हमारे there are cops who are wearing loose uniforms. They're not fitted. They're not showing off their bodies and their biceps and all. I just love the fact that even Barun Sobti's pants are ill-fitting. You know, I like that. Over to you, Ashuji.
मुझे अगर मेरी राय के बारे में बात करना हो तो वो थोड़ा आपसे अलग होगा, थोड़ा कहीं संदीप के साथ मैच करेगा. मैं एक्चुअली आई वाज़न्ट टू हैप्पी विद द शो. आई वाज़न्ट हैप्पी विद द शो बिकॉज ठीक है, मैंने भी कुछ चीजें सुनी थी शो के बारे में, और जैसे संदीप है वैसे मैं भी और हम लोग सब है. मेरे हिसाब से हम लोग कोई भी, खास करके मैं तो बिकॉज ऑफ माय हिस्ट्री ऑल्सो, मैं रिव्यूज या लोगों की क्रिटिक्स के बारे में कॉलम्स पढ़ के फिल्में नहीं देखता हूँ. मुझे जो समझ में आता है मैं वो देखता हूँ. और एज अ फिल्म स्टूडेंट 99% में सब कुछ देखता हूँ, चाहे वो अच्छा हो चाहे वो अच्छा ना हो. बिकॉज बहुत पहले मैंने ये अपने आप में बनाया था, बिकॉज चाहे कितनी भी खराब चीज हो उसमें भी आपको कुछ ना कुछ एज अ फिल्म स्टूडेंट सीखने को 100% मिलेगा. तो मेरे लिए मैं जब कुछ क्रिएटिव देखता हूँ तो मैं ओवरऑल देखता हूँ. मैं इंडिविजुअल चीजों डिपार्टमेंट्स को बहुत ज्यादा, I don't give too much preference to just individual departments. There is no doubt about it that the performance in this show is just outstanding. Every single person is very, very good. Barun Sobti ka maine, I've seen him earlier also. I've seen him in Asur 1, I've seen him in Asur 2. He's a very natural performer. He's very good. But Suvinder Vicky also I've seen, I thought is exceptionally restrained and very, very good. Like Nalini ji said, कि वो पता नहीं चलता है कि वो एक्चुअली एक्टर है कि कैरेक्टर है. दैट्स हाउ गुड ही इज. बट मैंने कैट भी देखी है और मुझे कैट बहुत पसंद है. आई रियली लाइक्ड कैट बिकॉज आई थॉट दैट in terms of storytelling, in terms of narration, in terms of unraveling of the plot, in terms of holding the audience's attention, in terms of background of characters, everything was fairly well defined. यहाँ पे मुझे लगा कि स्टोरी जो है इट इज ड्रैगिंग इट्स फीट. एंड हाउ, व्हाई आर वी सीइंग दिस, व्हाट इज हैपनिंग? सडनली इट गोज इनटू सम अदर ट्रैक एंड देन कम्स ऑन टू द मेन ट्रैक. एंड मेन ट्रैक पे आता तो कहानी फिर इंटरेस्टिंग होनी शुरू हो जाती है, फिर कहीं और शुरू हो जाते हैं. एंड ऑनेस्टली नलिनी जी एंड सौरभ एंड संदीप, आई एम रियली आई एम अ लिटिल टायर्ड ऑफ वाचिंग films or shows where there are cops who have such a difficult domestic life that they're coming back home into such a big problem कि ऐसा लगता है कि यार ये तो नौकरी ही करें तो बेटर है. एवरीबडी इज, सारे क्रिएटिव्स लगभग ऐसे ही होने वाले हैं, तो फिर मतलब ही नहीं है ना. इतना इतना ज्यादा ये हो जाता है, प्रिडिक्टेबल हो जाता है. मतलब उस हिसाब से तो मुझे मर्दानी बहुत पसंद है. कम से कम एटलीस्ट शी इज कमिंग होम टू अ हाउस दैट इज सो मच मोर पॉजिटिव. एंड यू डोंट रियलाइज दैट अरे इसकी लाइफ में सब कुछ ही प्रॉब्लम है यार. ऐसा हो नहीं सकता, सारों की लाइफ में सब कुछ ही प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती है. तो मुझे स्टोरी को लेकर, इवन द प्लॉट इटसेल्फ, इवेंचुअली जो मिस्ट्री है जहां जिसके पीछे ये इतना सारा कुछ हो रहा है, मुझे वो भी ऐसा कुछ खास नहीं लगा. तो जहां तक की ये बात है जो आप बोल रहे हैं कि नलिनी जी की, आप बच्चों को सुनना चाहिए, बच्चों को उनके बारे में समझना चाहिए, ये बात तो फैक्ट है, ये होना ही चाहिए. बट मैं पंजाबी हूँ, मैं पंजाब से तो नहीं आता हूँ. मैं आई बिलोंग टू जम्मू. बट मुझे मालूम है कि पंजाब और पंजाबी कल्चर में किस किस्म का फिल्म घर का माहौल होता है. उधर एक्चुअली पेट्रियार्की इन चरम सीमा पे होती है वहां पे. और कुछ चीजें जो है वो समाज में एक्सेप्टेबल है, समाज में एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं है. देयर आर डेफिनेट एरियाज ओवर देयर, वहां पे कुछ चीजों को खुलेआम बोलना, मानना इतना सिंपल नहीं है. वो सारी चीजें बहुत करेक्ट डिपिक्ट की है इस शो के अंदर. इस शो के अंदर लोकेशंस बहुत अच्छे डिपिक्ट किए, बहुत सारी परफॉर्मेंसेस आउटस्टैंडिंग है, कपड़ों की स्टाइलिंग अच्छी है, बट मेरे लिए सोल जो है ना वो फिल्म की कहानी है। और आप इस फिल्म की कहानी को किस तरीके से बोलते हो, आप क्या कहना चाहते हो, और आप उसको कितनी कैसे बैलेंस में कहते हो, वो मेरे लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। जो मुझे लगा कि ये शो जो है वो अपने चुंगल से ऑडियंस को छोड़ता है, फिर पकड़ता है, फिर छोड़ता है, फिर पकड़ता है। हालांकि मैंने बिंज वॉच किया है इसको, और ये राय सिर्फ मेरी अपनी नहीं है, मेरे घर वालों ने, मतलब मेरी वाइफ ने मेरे साथ में ये शो देखा, तो मैंने उसको अपनी राय के बारे में तो बिल्कुल कहा नहीं, बट मैं उससे जानना चाहता था कि उसको शो कैसी लगी। एंड उसकी राय बिल्कुल मिलती थी मेरे साथ कि मतलब बहुत बार ऐसा लगता था कि फॉरवर्ड करके देख लें क्या। मैं ये बिल्कुल सब्जेक्टिव पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू बोल रहा हूं, मेरा अपना ओपिनियन है। इसका मतलब बिल्कुल नहीं है कि दूसरे जो हैं वो इस ओपिनियन के असर में जाकर के कुछ डिसीजन ले या ना ले। बट आई वॉज अंडरवेल्म्ड बाय द शो। आई थॉट द शो कुड हैव बीन मच बेटर। इनफैक्ट ये शो पता नहीं 8 एपिसोड का है शायद ना,
नहीं,
इज इट 8 एपिसोड?
छह का है, 6 का है।
6 का है।
हाँ।
मुझे लगता है ये एक्चुअली ये शो जो है ना, अगर ये 4 या 5 एपिसोड में होता तो ये ब्लॉकबस्टर शो होता। मुझे लगता है ये 6 एपिसोड जो है वो उस पर ड्यूरेशन जो है वो कहानी पर भारी पड़ गया। दिस इज माय पॉइंट।
आशु जी, ये जो आप कह रहे हो ना, पुलिस वालों की लाइव्स में इतना सारा बवाल होता है, एंड ये आप बहुत सही कह रहे हो, बिकॉज इट हैज बिकम अ हैबिट नाउ दैट wherever there's a cop and who's leading the story or headlighting the story, there's always some problems, and it's been happening over and over and over again. और इसमें अगर आप देखो तो बलबीर सिंह का कैरेक्टर, वरुण सोपती, जो उसका नाम है शो में गरुंडी, उनके भी घर की देखिए, look at the complications in his life, you know.
कमाल है,
I mean,
कमाल है।
कोई दूसरे लेवल की कॉम्प्लिकेशंस है। जब मैं देख रही थी तो मैं सोच रही थी कि माय गॉश, what kind of a family. And then it always boils down to, not always, but in his case, what is the idea of keeping that family together? They're calling themselves a family, the three of them, is because of the property, कि कोई बाहर वाला आ जाए और ये हम बट जाए और वो सब। पर वो तो पेरिफेरल प्रॉब्लम है, लेकिन उसकी डेप्थ में देखिए ना, वो हस्बैंड उस औरत का, आई डोंट वांट टू गिव अवे टू मच, दो इट
या
spoiler, but that is something that was that shook me up a little bit. And you're
मतलब
very
मुझे बताऊं नलिनी जी, आपको बताऊं, मुझे ऐसा लगा कि अब राइटर्स लोगों ने मिलकर के बैठ के डिसाइड किया कि अब ये फैमिली है, इस फैमिली में हम कैसे प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट करें ताकि इसका बैक स्टोरी जो है वो इस तरीके से हो कि ये बंदा बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, इसकी बैक स्टोरी। हाउ डू वी क्रिएट अ सिचुएशन which makes it difficult for this boy, and hence he goes out and he's so good in his job because he believes that he needs to be there at the job more than he needs to be at home. I don't see that compulsion, and then the way the bhabi becomes a little dominating also at one point or two, mujhe, I just didn't resonate with the entire idea at all. मुझे समझ ही नहीं आया कि उसका मतलब जो सुविंदर विकी की जो फैमिली कैरेक्टर की जो फैमिली है वो फिर भी थोड़े लेवल तक अंडरस्टैंडिंग है। आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड, बट मुझे अगेन उसकी बेटी का समझ ही नहीं आता कि जहां पे उसको सारी चीजें मिल जाती हैं, सब कुछ मिलता है। I mean, chalo, I don't want to talk about it. But again, in both the cases, because there would be a lot of people who have not seen it and I don't want to kill it for them. But again, over there also, I thought the writers sat down and started working on ideas on how to make it a disgruntled family or a disgruntled character. There has been effort to make it disgruntled. Effort to put that. It's not organic, it's not natural.
Ashuji, I'm going to come back to this point of the daughter, but since both of us have spoken so much, I'm going to go over to Saurabh. Saurabh, over to you for your further comments on what Ashuji has said, and or anything that you want to add, and then we'll go to Sandeep.
So the title of Kohrra, I think it's actually a metaphor for not only कोहरा छाया हुआ है केस पे, बट कोहरा छाया हुआ है
सबकी जिंदगी में।
हाँ सबकी जिंदगी में।
बिल्कुल
एग्जैक्टली
सही, तभी डबल आर होगा। हाँ।
हाँ, वो कोहरे में बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम्स हैं उनके फैमिली के बीच में,
हम्म,
और वो कोहरा जो है वो साफ होता है,
हम्म,
एंड यू गेट टू नो दैट व्हाट्स द प्रॉब्लम,
हम्म,
the relationship, the conflict of that relationship. So I think इस शो में एक्चुअली ऑडियंस को एक कोहरा दिया है कि ये हु डन इट है, मगर एक्चुअली ये हु डन इट है
नहीं है, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। हाँ,
हु डन इट के पीछे छुपा हुआ है कि इनके फैमिली में इनकी क्या कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है।
सही है।
एक्चुअली इट्स एक्चुअली फैमिली ड्रामा बट इट्स
एग्जैक्टली,
डिस्गाइज्ड एज अ हु डन इट।
आई एग्री विथ यू 100%। या
पर मेरा वहीं पे ये कहना है, सो आई कंप्लीटली अंडरस्टैंड योर मेटाफर एंड आई एग्री विद दैट मेटाफर आल्सो, बट मेरा प्रॉब्लम यही है कि जो फैमिली रिलेशंस और इंटर रिलेशनशिप जो है, वही मुझे प्रॉब्लम लगती है इन स्टोरी टेलिंग एंड राइटिंग. That is for me one of the biggest drawbacks of the show.
एक्चुअली इट हैपेंस आल्सो बिकॉज आशु जी, मैं आपकी बात समझ रहा हूँ, बट these things happen in the show, especially in web series, because they wanted to create a conflict and through that conflict ही एक सीन बनेगी। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है, मैं जब शो देख रहा था,
सौरभ, I mean, नहीं, मुझे ये बहुत फीबल एक्सक्यूज लगता है कि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट क्रिएट करना है इसलिए करना है. तेरा 50,000 ways of creating conflict, really.
एग्जैक्टली वही मैं एक्चुअली ये शो का एक एक्चुअली एक प्रॉब्लम है ये। मैं आपसे अग्री कर रहा हूँ, आपको एक्चुअली आपकी कन्वर्सेशन को मैं वो कर रहा हूँ कि आगे बढ़ा रहा हूँ कि
हम्म.
बहुत सारे शोज में ये प्रॉब्लम होता है कि एक सीन क्रिएट करने के लिए कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होता है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगा ये शो जब मैं देख रहा था, उसमें जो गैस फटने वाला सीन है,
हाँ,
वो गैस फटने के लिए ही वो एक भाभी का कैरेक्टर बना के रखा है, ऐसा मुझे लगा। Though I liked that the conflict between Barun Sopti and his Parjai,
परजाई,
but
और वो बोलता भी उनको परजाई है सौरभ।
परजाई है,
हाँ,
मगर मुझे ऐसा भी लगा कि वो परजाई का कैरेक्टर इसलिए क्योंकि वो गैस फटे।
अच्छा, that's an interesting take. Sandeep, Sandeep, what do you have to say about what has been said so far?
Yeah, so before that, just before I forget, so since you mentioned the dance where he goes into a trance, Nalini ji
Yeah.
earlier, sort of, is it only me or were you reminded of the Kunchako Boban dance in Inada Case Kodo?
हाँ, so to some extent. So just for knowledge for Nalini ji and Ashu ji, Enna Tan Case Code is a Malayalam film. And in that, Kunjako Boban is the hero. Kunjako Boban is the main protagonist. And there's a scene where he's dancing. He's drunk and he's dancing. So Sandeep is talking about that.
अच्छा, हाँ, interesting. और संदीप, और बोलिए आप।
So, regarding the family dynamics, right? Again, this is becoming a pet peeve of mine with the shows. So I totally connect with what Ashuji is saying. See, I am actually at a point now after seeing these so many times that uh, I really don't have patience left for lazy writing.
Yeah.
Symbolism दिखाने के लिए जो see when you look at it on paper, right, or in hindsight, it is very easy for somebody who has liked the show to connect the dots and let's say that it is a film about parents and children, and there are three pairs of it. If you see, one is Suvinder Vicky and his daughter. Then on the other side is the victim's family, Manish Chaudhary and his son. And in a way, since the brother has brought up Varun Sopti's character, that is the third pair of parent-children equation. So, and if you even extend it a little more, the girl who that guy was supposed to get married to, if you see,
Yeah.
even theirs is a facade. Actually, there is no connection whatsoever between the parents and the daughter. They have no clue what she is doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So it is easy to connect it and say that it is about a pair of about 6 families and all of that. But you've done such a good work that you have got all the performances. Your idea is also good what you're trying to do it, but don't don't keep repeating the same thing. There could easily have been a contrast in terms of either one of the cop characters or on the other side, especially cop characters, because exactly what Ashuji said, right? Yeah, नौकरी पे भी पिसते हैं, घर पे भी पिसते हैं. That is becoming the norm in the depiction. Bring out some contrast. That is what good writing is, right? And it's not like Kohrra's writing is bad. I'm just saying it. My love and admiration for the show would have been even more if we had just gotten rid of few of these tropes, shown a contrast uh, of a guy who may be gray at work, but then things are normal at home, or as normal as it can be. So एक juxtaposition भी होता है, that makes for interesting play of characters.
That is what I gave the example of Mardani for, no? Because Rani's house at home with her husband, and she's also a cop. It's a perfect relationship at home, and she's taking care of the maid who's like a daughter at home, and it's everything is so positive, and she really gets upset when the maid suddenly disappears, and she's going out of a way to figure out. Of course, I've sort of detoured a little, but that's also to try and prove to the writers in the industry and generally speaking that you can have a normal house who goes out and then has a conflict. Like for example, the protagonist's internal conflict, with himself, which is eventually unraveled in the plot, is brilliant. It's really, really nice. But the additional drama that is around him in the periphery is something that is loading in a way that you as an audience say, what? Why? Where is this going?
Sandeep, I don't know if you remember in one of the podcasts, if I remember correctly, we were talking about Farzi. And at that point in time, Saurabh had made a comment, which all of us agreed with. I remember very, very vociferously we agreed with him. But he had made this exact same point that I am tired of seeing police officers having, I think it was Farzi because he was talking about Vijay.
Yeah, I remember क्योंकि आशीष जी ने कमेंट भी किया था कि तुम क्या सोचते हो.
हाँ, because विजय सेतुपति की जो लाइफ थी वो भी ऐसे बहुत ट्रबल थी, वो भी सेम वाइफ इज लीविंग हैविंग अफेयर व्हाटएवर. सिमिलरली इधर तो उस पॉडकास्ट में ये बात हमने रखी थी, सौरभ ने रखी थी ये बात.
बट नलिनी जी, द डिफरेंस इज कि उसमें वो बात रखी थी इज जस्ट अ सब प्लॉट. बट कोहरा में जैसे मैंने मेंशन किया है, कोहरा में दैट वाज द मेन प्लॉट एक्चुअली.
या सही है, आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हो. और सारे के सारे जितनी ये 4 फैमिलीज है ना, जैसे मन्ना, डिलन और हैप्पी, उनका देखो, वो अपने बेटे को अप्रिशिएट ही नहीं करता है. देन सी व्हाट हैपेंस. फिर मनीष चौधरी का कैरेक्टर और उसका बेटा पॉल और उनके कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. Of course, the only family, of course, she has a conflict, is Rachel, Shelley, and Liam, right? Their relationship would have been healthy if we had been allowed to see it a little bit, right? But they didn't show it to us.
That's one of the complaint also
Yeah.
from कि वो लियाम का जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है कि तुम फिर मतलब मुझसे प्यार करते हो फिर भी शादी कर रहे हो इससे, वो बहुत लास्ट में दिखा, लास्ट एपिसोड में दिखा है. They should have shown before.
That's what, yeah. So that's why I said the end was very underwhelming for me.
And the only person who comes from a non-dysfunctional family actually ends up doing what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Liam. But
yes,
you see, okay, his family, Sandeep, may not have been dysfunctional because his mother accepted him. They've never shown his father, but they've accepted him for whatever. But okay.
Sorry to cut you, Nalini ji, but
no
Liam का conflict इसलिए नहीं दिखाया क्योंकि that was a surprise package.
Yes, exactly. You're right.
Because they are homosexual, we understood because of one scene where this guy is beating his son. Sunny के जो father है, वो उनको मार रहे, तभी मुझे समझ में आ गया था क्या सीन है.
सौरभ, मैं आपको सच में बता रही हूँ, मुझे पहले से ही शो में पता चल गया था when they show photographs, okay, of both of them together, when Happy is looking at the photographs, and I'm telling you, my son saw it separately, I saw it separately, and he guessed it right in the beginning. I knew there was going to be this angle, but it was absolutely fortified when he goes looking for his son, and the son has cut his hair, and he's beating him because of the hair, but there is an underlying thing there,
Nalini, I also could guess it right there.
Very
There is something about that photograph.
Yeah, the photographs that they're looking, it's very, very obvious that this is going to happen. But Saurabh, okay, so Liam's character, without giving too much away, if you remember that bar scene, right? The bar where they get into a scuffle.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get into a scuffle with that other rap star, Sakar, his name is, in the show. Now, at that point in time, if you look at that scuffle properly and closely, na, तो वहां पे भी एक इन्होंने क्लू डाला है जो मैं मिस कर चुकी. I missed it, and I was thinking to myself that what the heck, what are they showing? And then I went back to that bar scene after I finished seeing the show, you know, because I wanted to justify for myself कि end में क्या दिखा रहे हैं. So when you're binge watching, you miss quite a few things. There is a lot of violence inside Liam more than anyone else.
Yeah.
The maximum violence is
मुझे पता था, that's why I'm telling that they should have shown the conflict of Liam, but अगर conflict दिखाता तो हमें guess करने में आसानी हो जाती.
हाँ, वो उन्होंने जानबूझ के ऐसा किया.
Ajay, Nalini ji, just because we are on the bar scene and we are out with spoilers now, I have a question for all three of you, and any of you can, give me the answer for this, because there is a major issue in the bar scene which is revealed later on.
Yes, why did he pick up that blade? Please
Pick up
answer.
that blade, exactly. That's my question also.
Exactly, right?
No, why? Why? So was it premeditated then? Why did he pick up that blade? I cannot understand. That was a question I was going to ask all of you.
And it couldn't be premeditated, right? Because he wouldn't have known that there is going to be a fight at the bar and all of this. So he would have thought of something else, if at all it was premeditated, which actually does not look like if you look
Yeah.
at the other scenes. So that I was baffled by that.
Yeah,
Exactly. मेरा भी वही same है कि why he picked the blade. I didn't understand that.
I didn't understand that either. And that's not his blade. That blade belongs to Sakar. और ये वहां देखता है, and it's a very pointed way in which he turns and he sees the blade and then he puts his hand out and they're showing that blade.
Actually, that's the problem with the writing, because जो उस बंदे ने, वो रैपर ने काटा, वो ब्लेड इसने उठाया, वहीं लूप होल हो गया. This happens while you write.
Ashuji, what is your thought about that blade? Why did you? Because it was confounding for me and for all of us.
So I think that's an error in the writing, in the sense that, they believe that nobody will notice and understand what is happening. But the audience tends to see it very clearly. Unless, see, I'll tell you, there was a very simple way to do it. Okay, if Liam had noticed the blade before and he put it into his pocket to save anybody from using the blade. You understand what I'm saying? कि यार ये इसके हाथ में चाकू निकाल लो हाथ से, तो फिर वो जो बाकी सारा फोर्स है वो ब्लंट हो जाएगा. सो उसने ब्लेड को हटा दिया. अब जब वो सिचुएशन आती तो उसको रियलाइज होता है कि मेरे पास तो ब्लेड है, एंड देन अगर वो ब्लेड यूज करता है, इट वुड हैव बीन परफेक्टली फाइन.
ये
बट
आपने
हियर
एकदम सही बोला आशु जी, क्योंकि मैं भी सोचता हूँ, मैं भी यही समझ रहा हूँ कि अगर वो निकाल लेता जेब से, मतलब उसके हाथ से निकाल लेता ब्लेड और जेब में रख देता या पॉकेट में रख देता, वो पॉकेट में रखने वाला शॉट जो है वो क्लोजअप में दिखा देते ऑडियंस के लिए.
नहीं भी क्लोजअप में दिखाते, नहीं दिखा देते कि इसकी जो मंशा है, उसका जो पोटेंट वेपन है, उसको नलिफाई करने का था. अब ये बात अलग है कि वो बात जो है वो उसके हाथ में आ गई चीज और उसने उसको इस्तेमाल किया, देन यू कैन से कि ये कोइंसिडेंटल है. लेकिन अगर आप उसको इंटेंशनली आप वहां से उठाते हो और आप उसको रखते हो, तो इसका मतलब यही हुआ कि वो प्री मेडिटेड हो गया कि मेरे को मालूम है कि इसके बाद ये होने वाला है, उसके बाद ये होने वाला है, और मैं वहां जाकर के ब्लेड को इस्तेमाल करूंगा, तो वो तो फॉर्च्यून टेलर हो गया.
एक चीज और है, I want to ask you people the question about this only, but little different. That since we've given out so many spoilers, Rachel Shelley's character, in the end, when she leaves, she tells the cop there's something you should know, and she tells him about the voicemail. So my question is, she was flying to India, and that's when the guy, her son, has called her, and it's gone into voicemail. At which point does she put on the phone? They don't show any of that. So my guess, I don't know if you all agree, my guess is that, okay, fine, she must have landed and must have heard that voicemail, and she enters that house and she realizes that Paul is no more. She hears the voicemail and she knows, okay, there's no mystery there. But right now, her son is missing. And these people are anyway faced with this tragedy of losing their son. So she's not saying anything. She's just waiting कि लियम मिल जाए और फिर शायद वो उसको पूछेगी or whatever. But do you agree with me that she knows way before anyone else in the story knows?
in the entire timeline of the film, if you put the timeline in a linear form, she's the only one who knows exactly what has happened right through.
Exactly.
The only probable situation is she's still looking for Liam, wanting to know where Liam is, because as a mother would, if I know where Liam is and I'm going to go off, I'd rather take off and go away to UK back, and I know my son is safe now. Whatever the Punjab police wants to do or doesn't want to do. But the fact is, once she realizes that Liam is also not alive, she knows that there is nothing to lose now, and that is when she unravels the entire mystery.
Yeah.
So it's okay. It's an opportune screenplay moment for the writers to say, okay, this is where we can actually say it and try to show that she's honest or the character is honest. But actually speaking, the character is not honest. The character has been withholding information. See, imagine the timing of revelation also. That when she's getting to go into UK, that is when she tells, which means she'll also take off now.
Yeah. So they're all gray characters. Yeah.
Otherwise, legally speaking, if you're withholding information, which is a murder investigation, then you could be held for holding back information with yourself. That's an unlawful activity.
Yeah. She was definitely knew what had happened.
And when she arrived in India, वो कैप्टन रसल के टैक्सी में आती
Oh,
है.
that was lovely. That's a lovely clip. Yeah.
समझने वाले समझ गए,
हाँ.
ना समझे तो भी ठीक है, अनाड़ी कोई नहीं है, सब ठीक है
जी.
हाँ. बट मैं बताऊं, मुझे पर्सनली मुझे वो रेचल का परफॉर्मेंस भी बहुत अच्छा लगा. In terms of performance, actually everybody's done very well, including Happy and the girl who's going to get married. All of them have done well. Personally speaking, the way so sort of wanted to speak about the opening shot, and I was completely appalled at the opening shot. I didn't feel that there was any reason for that shot to happen at all. Why did one had to start a show like this? Was it for a shock value? Was it to get attention of the audience?
Yeah, of course. Yes. और वो भी दिखाना कि पंजाब खेतों में ये होता है, आशु जी.
I understand. मैंने कहा ना, मैं ये
आशु जी, वो गाना है ना, चल चमेली बाग में मेवा खिलाऊंगा. What do you think that means?
My God, you ruined the song for me.
But that's exactly what it means. And I was told this truth by a Punjabi in Delhi, because I thought it's a simple song, Chal Chameli Baag Mein, but what Chal Chameli Baag Mein is all double meaning.
Actually, a lot of our retro songs, if you look at it, they are filled with euphemisms. But yeah, this particular song, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, तो ये होता है खेतों. अच्छा सुने, मुझे ना बात करनी है, संदीप से शुरू करते हैं. संदीप, मुझे बात करनी है कैमियोज की, बिकॉज मेरे एक दो बहुत फेवरेट कैमियोज हैं which I'm dying to speak about. So if you have any ones that you want to speak about, please do. Any small cameos that you were very impressed with.
Would Rachel's character count as one?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so there are two. Actually, I would think in a way even Manish Chaudhary doesn't get good screen time, or Varun Badola for that matter. But yeah, among all of them, Rachel, because hers is technically
a longer cameo actually.
Yeah. Hers, I liked hers the best. And who else was there, if you can remind me?
Okay, I'm dying to say. Can I say, please?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Don't, Nalini ji. No. One second. Nalini ji. Please don't die on us. Please say it.
In fact, I want Saurabh to tell me who this person, because I've been searching. I can't find the name. Okay. So
मुझे कैमियो नहीं मिला, आप ही बताइए.
Saurabh, वो सतीश आहूजा का कैरेक्टर.
वही सतीश आहूजा?
अच्छा. वो एक गाड़ी, इनको एक टिप मिलती है कि वो जो घड़ी चुराई गई थी ना, तो it's the smart watch which was stolen from the scene of the crime. So Barun Sopti gets a tip that it's switched on, right? So he goes to Balbir and he tells him that, oh, it's switched on and we know the location. So if you remember that scene, they go in a car, there is this young boy hugging this girl, and they're about to make out seriously. Okay, when they're about, not, I'm not talking about that cameo, I'm talking about another cameo. Okay, so when they're about to make out, so wo jo police wala, he does tuck tuck on the window and this little boy looks at the cop and says, ye to meri cousin hai.
By the way, Nalini ji,
हाँ जी.
that same exact line is there in Patal Lok.
अच्छा, ये मैं भूल गई फिर अगर है तो.
When they enter, there's a character in Patal Lok who's a builder. I don't remember what exactly he is, but he's a hotel chain or something. I can't recall. Oh, okay. This is where the four of them stay before they start or to shoot that guy, right? Or rather they leave Delhi or whatever. They are holed up in a hotel room.
Okay.
So when these two go to investigate and they want to see the hotel room, actually the hotel is that room is occupied by a man and a woman who have already made out whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the first thing he says that, sir, ye meri cousin hai. हमारा सरनेम अलग है लेकिन ये मेरी cousin है.
अच्छा, तो उसके बाद पता क्या होता है सौरभ आशुजी, तो फिर वो बोलते हैं, तो मेरे बाप का नाम सतीश आहूजा है. कट टू, दे गो टू हिज हाउस. सतीश आहूजा, दैट गाय विद द लॉन्ग नोज, what a fabulous face, character face he has. He's a drug lord, a drug peddler. Don't you remember that character? And both these cops are sitting there.
I remember.
Yeah, they're looking at him, and there's one of those few scenes in the show where Balbir Singh has a little smirk on his face, a little smile, and he says, मुझे क्या पता था कि जब उस तेरे मुंडे ने बोला कि मेरे बाप का नाम सतीश आहूजा है, तो मुझे पता नहीं था कि तू निकलेगा.
Yeah, they call him, उसने कहा Mr. Satish या सतीश जी, ये तू तो चिट्टा सतीश नहीं, चिट्टा सत्तू or something he refers to him as. Yeah.
He's so funny that he doesn't want, he's nahi, he says. So I love that cameo, and of course I love Sumit Gulati's cameo. That these were two of my favorite ones.
Not cameo, you can say a third wheel.
हाँ, तो Rachel Shelley also भी cameo नहीं था, लंबी था, but whatever. मुझे वो अच्छा लगा, Sumit Gulati का काम.
And talking about that cousin scene, that reminded me that opening, actually the opening shot, the field में murder, body find करना, and that is found by a young guy. That reminded me of a Korean film called Memories of Murder by Bong Joon-ho. उसमें भी ऐसे ही है कि फील्ड में मर्डर वो फाइंड करते हैं, that is found by a young kid. उसके बाद कॉप्स आते हैं. So I think they got inspired from that scene maybe.
Right.
But you know, मुझे one of the best things, one of the best sequences I liked in the whole show, honestly, and I thought it was original to a large extent. Maybe Saurav will have a spoiler for me on that, probably. But मुझे वो बहुत अच्छा लगा. Ideation भी बहुत अच्छा लगा, execution भी बहुत अच्छा लगा. When they go to find the bus driver उसके गांव में, and they're looking everywhere, उसको मिल नहीं रहा है, कहाँ है, and suddenly वरुण सोबती को लगता है ये कौन है, and then that guy starts running, उसके ऊपर साबुन लगा हुआ है और वो अंडरवेयर में भाग रहा है और पूरा गांव भागता है. वो उसके जो भागने का पेस है, उसके फेस में जो इंटेंसिटी है भागने का, and I think he's barefoot when he's running. It's not simple to do that.
He's not scared also. He's very confident. अब पकड़ मेरे को, साले पकड़.
हाँ. Can you imagine? मतलब मैं बताऊं, मैं मुझे साबुन के साथ जैसे ही भागा, मैं बोला यार, this is a smart one, because जैसे वो पकड़ने की कोशिश करेंगे, उनका हाथ फिसलेगा, ये फिर निकलेगा, because है तो मोटा. It's not simple for him to catch up, but how he was running, and the entire sequence has been done so beautifully. In fact, that was really, really nice.
Yeah, that was one of the highlights of the show for me also, because it was one of those genuine chases where these cops are really not that fit. I like the fact, you know.
Yeah.
And they were falling behind कि तू पकड़. वरुण सोबती भी जल्दी हाँपने लग जाता है, और हमारा जो बलबीर सिंह है वो भी तो हाँपता ही है. दोनों फास्ट नहीं भागते, तो वो बहुत
उधर तो उम्र का तकाजा भी है. बट यस, यू आर राइट, बिकॉज वो बात, दे आर नॉट लाइक अ फिल्मी हीरो के किसी के पीछे पकड़ के उसको पकड़ ही लेंगे.
थैंक गॉड फॉर दैट इनको हीरो नहीं बनाया, इनको बहुत रियल बनाया.
मतलब उसके उनको जो पता चलता है जब वो जाते हैं वहां पे बस अड्डे में, तो उसी को पूछते हैं वो लोग कि ये मैनेजर कहाँ है, तो बोलता है हाँ मैनेजर वो उधर ऑफिस में है। और ये लोग मैनेजर के पास जाकर के बोलते हैं कि ये बंदा कहाँ है, तो बोलते हैं ये बस नंबर का, बोलता है उसका फोटो वोटो कुछ पता होता पता, तो उसका जब फोटो दिखते बोलते ओ
हाँ,
एंड दे रन।
अंधे
दे
रन।
रियलाइज कि ये बंदा कितना कॉन्फिडेंट होगा वो बंदा।
जी।
उसको मालूम है कि पुलिस मेरे पीछे आई होगी यहाँ पे, लेकिन उसके फेस पे डर नहीं है।
हम्म।
और वो
But I have a
उनको
question. Who kills that character?
Sorry,
वो
I'll tell you who
Who?
kills him.
हम्म,
Manna Dhillon's people. They get
Manna
ready.
Dhillon कौन है?
Manna Dhillon is Varun Badola.
वरुण वरुण बडोला।
वो अपने
या
बेटे को बचाने के लिए ना, वो आके उसके सामने गन रखता है ना बार पे, और कहता है कि ये तेरे नाम पे रजिस्टर है, तो अब वो लड़का तुझे कभी परेशान नहीं करेगा।
तंग नहीं करेगा, तंग नहीं
हाँ,
करेगा।
तो उसने
बट मुझे बताओ, एज एन एक्टर मुझे वरुण बडोला भी बहुत पसंद है।
बहुत अच्छा,
बहुत
बहुत
I
अच्छा।
love that actor.
बहुत नेचुरल है।
अदरवाइज ऑल्सो ही इज अ ग्रेट एक्टर।
बहुत अच्छा क्रिकेटर भी है।
या अदरवाइज ऑल्सो इज अ ग्रेट एक्टर। अच्छा सुने, मैं एक चीज बिल्कुल ही भूल गई थी शुरुआत में, सौरभ ने बोला ओपनिंग सीन। सौरभ, आशुजी, संदीप, व्हेन आई वाज वाचिंग इट ना, एंड इट वाज सो इरिटेटिंग फॉर मी। शुरू में ये बात हमारे इंडिया में ही होता है क्या ऐसे, कि कॉप्स को किसी ने इतला दी कि मर्डर हो गया है, वो वहां आते हैं और बलबीर सिंह को दिखाते, एक भी पुलिस वाले के हाथ में ग्लव्स नहीं है, और वो बॉडी को छू रहे हैं।
दस्ताने नहीं,
हाँ,
दस्ताने
बॉडी
नहीं
को
है।
छू रहे हैं, उसके फेस को हटाते हैं, तब उनको पता चलता है यहाँ पे किसी के पास भी नहीं है। गाड़ी के अंदर वो जाते हैं, वॉलेट और उसका वो मिलता है, वो सब विदाउट ग्लव्स। और फिर देयर इज वन डायलॉग दे पुट देयर, वे बलबीर सिंह इज आस्किंग हिज एसोसिएट कि फोरेंसिक्स का क्या हुआ। कहता है वो तो जब आएंगे तब आएंगे, पर फोरेंसिक्स का क्या?
That's why I like CID. उसमें अभिजीत दया सब gloves पहन के इन्वेस्टिगेट
संदीप, आपका क्या ख्याल है, इन्होंने ग्लव्स क्यों नहीं शुरू में दिखाए यार?
It bothered me, especially at that specific moment when they remove the open the car and then they take the wallet out of it.
Yeah.
But I've kind of made my peace with it, and I'm also pretty sure that when you go deep into India, right, towards the countryside, and you have these cops handle cases like these, which they will be handling once in a blue moon, and with no forensic available in the till it comes from the district headquarters or a place like that, they would be managing it like this. So I'm giving them that. They're probably depicting the reality.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but Sandeep, the irony of that is the dialogue that Balbir Singh says
हाँ,
कि क्राइम सीन की ऐसी की तैसी बना दी, पर खुद तुम क्या,
yeah,
खुद
true.
तुम क्या कर रहे हो, तुम्हारे हाथों में ग्लव्स ही नहीं है। तो वो शुरुआत में ही दिखाते हैं, तो वो मुझे इरिटेट हुआ थोड़ा सा। बट अच्छा, एक
I think that happened because मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि उस जगह में उस एरिया में कभी ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं है जिसके वजह से वो ग्लव्स पहने। मुझे ऐसा भी लगा मे बी।
नहीं नहीं, मैं बताऊं तुमको सौरभ, क्या होता है कि कुछ ऐसा हुआ नहीं की बात नहीं है। किसी के घर में अगर चोरी भी हुई होगी, तो भी इंसान दस्तानों के साथ में जाकर के इन्वेस्टिगेशन करेगा, अपने अपने उंगलियों के निशान थोड़ी रखेगा वो। मर्डर तो छोड़ दो। बट आई एग्री विद संदीप टू दिस, एंड आई जस्ट didn't want to say it because Sandeep had covered the point. But the fact is that, you go to a smaller distance, smaller place, smaller this thing, they're probably not as careful because they don't have the kind of facilities for forensic. Maybe that goes to a little further distance, whatever. But again, मुझे वो थोड़ा सा आज इतना ज्यादा हम लोग देखते हैं, मतलब चाहे वो शोज में हो, चाहे वो एक्सपोजर इतना है, सबका एक्सपोजर इतना है कि जब आप इस तरीके की चीज पहली बार देखते हो तो सबसे पहले दिमाग में आता है कि यार ग्लव्स क्यों नहीं। अभी जो ये बात कर रहा है सौरभ सीआईडी का, सीआईडी तो पता नहीं कितने सालों से चल रहा है, जो आप वहां देख रहे हो कि पुलिस वाले जो है ग्लव्स पहन के ही घूमते
यस,
हैं।
ऑल हेल टू बीपी सिंह। या
हाँ, तो आप बीपी सिंह करेक्ट, एंड आपको ये सारी चीजें जो है वो आजकल ऑडियंसेस भी देख करके सबसे पहले बोलेगी अरे ग्लव्स नहीं पहना है, तो इट्स दैट
और
ऑब्वियस।
आशुजी देखिए, इसी शो में जहाँ पे इन्होंने ग्लव्स नहीं पहने, वो
अरे सीआईडी में तो, सॉरी ललित जी, बट सीआईडी में तो ग्लव्स के अंदर खूनी, मतलब जो है खून करते हुए ग्लव्स पहन के खून किया, तो ग्लव्स के अंदर का प्रिंट निकाल के भी उन्होंने केस सॉल्व किया है।
अरे वाह तालिया, तालिया। बट सौरभ देखिए, इस शो में देखिए, ये 2023 का शो है, और वो करंट भी दिखा रहे हैं. It's a new show, you know. It's probably happened. The incident happened in 2022, and they're actually solving the crime with a lot of help from the internet. Like the rapper, they go to his Insta profile, they go to Paul's profile, they're looking at all of that. That Satnam ji, that's a great cameo also. That corrupt lady. Satnam ji, yaad
Yeah,
hai
yeah,
aapko? That
yeah,
lady.
yeah,
So
yes.
I love that character.
I
Actually, I
love
love
her.
that character. They didn't do justice with that
They
character.
did. I love her character. And वो जब वो we're going to talk about the comedy dialogues because there are not too many of them. But जब वो frappe hazelnut flavor frappe मंगवाती है restaurant में, तो जब वीरा चली जाती है तो बलबीर सिंह उसको देखता है frappe को and he says ये क्या है, बुर्ज खलीफा बनाया हुआ है.
And actually, this show has a lot of dark humor.
Yeah.
And I think this came with so Randeep Jha made a Trial by Fire and this show, but he made a film called Halahal, which is a very underrated show. उसमें भी बहुत सारे dark humor elements हैं. And in this also, one of my favorite dark humor scene is where वो जो वरुण बड़ोला के बेटे हैं उनको वरुण सोपती आके मारता है एंड ही हिट्स हिम ऑन दैट कार और वो कार का इनॉग्रेशन कुछ होता है की देते हैं तो वो जब कार में उसको मारता है मारने के बाद वो जो कार ओनर है वो बेचारा बोलता है अरे डेंट लग गया एंड यू सी दिस लेडी कमिंग एंड वो
Giving him
बोलती
the
है कि
car
आपको
keys.
की हाँ दैट इज वेरी फनी थिंग
Yeah, very funny, very funny. Oh gosh. और वो है ना वो डायलॉग्स की बात करें तो मुझे वो भी याद आ रहा है वो जब लिकर शॉप में जाता है ना वरुण सोपती to do investigation that if these two Paul and what's his name Liam had come there. So first that guy says no and then he beats him up a little bit and then he remembers and then he says मुझे 50 पाउंड का नोट दिया था और उसमें एलिजाबेथ की फोटो थी तो वरुण सोपती बोलता है नहीं विक्टोरिया.
I think that is also a reference to Lagan maybe because Rachel was Elizabeth in Lagan.
No, because of Victoria, Queen Victoria's photos on the 50 pound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think indirectly they referred.
Possible, I don't know. But
Maybe.
you know, there's one very funny scene. Let me tell you all. When y'all will remember in the cop scene when they discover that the fellatio has been had, and they come to the that's the forensic guy, the Sardarji who's doing the forensic report. So when he says that there's been fellatio, so Balbir doesn't understand, Barun Sopti understands, and there's a little plump nurse sitting there. She hears the word fellatio, whatever she's doing, she just turns left, she becomes embarrassed, and then she gets up from there and says, the doctor says, कहाँ जा रही हो? मैं तो खाना खाने जा रही हूँ. तो बोलता है इस वक्त कहता है मैं कहती है मैं तो breakfast भी नहीं किता because because she's embarrassed or they're trying to tell you that fellatio is not very far from this particular. She's probably done it to somebody as well. That's what I got from
हाँ मैं भी वो बोलने वाला था.
हाँ. And she's probably done it to this doctor itself, no?
Maybe. Nalli ji, high five.
My God, these innuendos, I tell you.
Nalli ji is killing it. I love it.
But that's very nice. ये तो मेरी cousin है sir. Oh God. और वो सौरभ when they go to the ढाबा अच्छा वो जब ट्रक ड्राइवर है ना वो सरदार ट्रक ड्राइवर who likes transgenders. Remember उसका नाम क्या है?
And that transgender thing also, as Sandeep reminded me of Patal Lok. Sandeep,
Yeah.
you will agree with me because Patal Lok में भी वो character था ना ऐसा.
Yeah, there was.
True.
Ajay Sandeep, so when they go to the, I'm talking about funny dialogues, okay? So जब ये सरदार चारपाई से उठता है दिखता है कि उसका जो टोटी है ना उसका नाम टोटी है वो लड़का तो वो नहीं लेटा है तो वो ढाबे वाले से पूछता है that यहाँ मेरे पास जो लड़का लेटा हुआ था वो कहाँ है तो कहते हैं देखो ढाबे की पॉलिसी है कस्टमर अपने सामान का खुद
Yeah, that was good time to insert the dialogue.
Oh God. Oh my gosh. Amazing.
And I have a question to Sandeep. I think Sandeep is the only person who saw Halal after me in this panel. So, Sandeep, do you think that some references was
I
what?
haven't watched Halal, Saurabh.
What?
I haven't.
धोखा 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 इंतकाम. You should watch it. मैंने इन दोनों को भी बोला है कि हलाहल देखो.
हाँ, अच्छा जी, मैं I want to speak about some more things. If you all have something that you want to speak about, please do. Please do, because I want to cover everything. And
I have a question. I have a question for everyone, Nalini ji, Ashu ji, and Sandeep.
जी,
The question is, I think in this relationship बहुत ही interesting way में उन्होंने दिखाया है. Every relationship.
yeah,
Varun Bodola's relationship with Paul's dad. I don't know his actor's name.
Manish
Manish
Chaudhary.
Chaudhary.
Manish Chaudhary.
Manish Chaudhary, a superb actor. और relationship with Parjai and Barun Sobti.
Yeah.
परजाई का भी कैरेक्टर का एक्टर का नाम नहीं पता, सॉरी.
Hmm.
और बहुत सारे ऐसे हरलीन सेठीज कैरेक्टर रिलेशनशिप, डैड्स एंड डॉटर्स रिलेशनशिप, ये सारे रिलेशनशिप बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग तरीके से दिखाया है. बट वन रिलेशनशिप आई थिंक वाज द बेस्ट, एंड दैट इज वरुण सोबती's रिलेशनशिप विद सुविंदर.
Oh yes.
Oh, brilliant है.
दैट इज इंटरेस्टिंग बिकॉज वो कभी अपना पर्सनल लाइफ एक दूसरे से कभी उन्होंने शेयर ही नहीं किया पूरे एपिसोड में, पूरे शो में. उन्होंने कभी नहीं बोला कि सुविंदर ने कभी नहीं बोला अरे मेरी बेटी, अरे इसके साथ चक्कर है यार उसका यार, या वरुण सोबती अरे मेरे परजाई के साथ चक्कर था यार. नेवर, दे नेवर शेयर्ड पर्सनल ट्रेट्स. सो माय क्वेश्चन इज, व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन द रिलेशनशिप दे शोकेस्ड इन द शो?
Now, which relationship are you talking about?
Every relationship in the show.
Saurabh, I think they don't show it, but
But it's understood. I think they've spoken about it.
it's
Yeah.
understood that over those late night drinks that they share.
No, I'm not talking. Sorry, Sandeep, I'm not talking about a relationship with of Barun Sopti and Suvinder. I'm talking a relationship overall. The characters, Barun, Varun Badola's character with his brother, Varun Badola's character with his son. मतलब ये जो relationships है बहुत interesting way में उन्होंने दिखाया है पूरे show में. So I'm talking about relationship overall.
Achha, that way. I really liked Varun Badola and what are the show between him and Manish Chaudhary, because I'm sure all of us would have seen people like these around us. Wherever there is a property dispute between two brothers, right? In most cases, it is not very acrimonious on the face. There is a love, there is a affection from all the upbringing together. All of that remains, and yet there comes a kind of a distance because they know that court में पेशी चल रही है या फिर they need the share of the land and all of that. So there is a respect, there is a battle that is going on behind, but on the face of it, the younger brother will not go against him, and all of that. I really like that. We don't show that in films normally. If there is a dispute in films or shows for that matter, then they are shown to be acrimonious on the face, like they can't see eye to eye and all of that. But in reality, that's not how it happens. They would be meeting in family events, they would be going to each other's house, and yet they will go to the court. And that is separate, and this is separate. So I like that depiction. Although it was not too much, but the amount that is shown, I really liked it.
I agree.
Nice answer, Sandeep.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. कि उसको ज्यादा बढ़ा चढ़ा के नहीं दिखाया, एक underlying और बहुत अच्छा scene है after Paul's funeral when both of them are sitting there, जहाँ पे वो electric crematorium के बाद जो दोनों बैठे हैं, and that's the only time you actually see lots of tears. Twice in you see falling down Manish Chaudhary's face, and Varun Badola asks him, चलो मैं तुम्हें घर छोड़ देता हूँ or whatever. So he says नहीं.
And what a wonderful shot, Nalini ji. वो जो
yeah.
वो होता है electrocution, या वो आग जब आती है तो कवर होता है. That shot is really good.
It's
really
very good. And it's how my mother exactly. So she came to my mind. Exactly the same thing. When the, I don't like to use the word body. So when the person is put inside that furnace, it's actually a furnace. Before the iron door closes, you can see the fumes, the fire comes, you can actually see your loved one burning, and then that door comes down. So when I saw that, immediately I went back to my mother, but that was very real. It was shown very well. What about the other relationships that Saurabh is asking about? Ashuji, would you like to say something?
अब मेरी बारी, तो मेरे को तो रिलेशनशिप के साथ ही प्रॉब्लम है फिल्म के अंदर, तो मैं तो क्या बताऊं। लेकिन मैं फिर भी बताता हूँ, मुझे जो सबसे अच्छा रिलेशनशिप लगा है, ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग, इज बिटवीन द कॉप्स। एंड उसका ग्रेटिफिकेशन जो है वो इतना ब्रिलियंट होता है जब वरुण को मालूम पड़ता है कि ही इज गॉन मिसिंग एंड ही जस्ट टेक्स ऑफ एंड ही जस्ट ट्रैक्स द गाय एंड ही इज आल्सो कॉल्ड फॉर बैकअप एंड दे से दैट वो रास्ता गलत ले लिया and they will take some time to get there. He doesn't have the patience to wait. He puts his life on the line and goes inside to get him.
Yeah.
मतलब ये इतना बेशक बहुत ज्यादा नहीं बोला गया है, उनके बीच में का रिलेशनशिप जो है वो ऑफिशियल ही है ज्यादातर, लेकिन एक वो रिस्पेक्ट भी है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद वो कैमराडरी के अलावा जो एक दूसरे को संभालने वाली बात है ना, वो कमाल है इसमें. इट इज बिटवीन द टू, इवन एक्चुअली द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन द ऑफिसर एंड his junior, the Satnam and the
Tuvinder's character, Balbir.
Between Satnam and Balbir, that relationship is also so good. It's a very different kind of a relationship, but it is nice.
आशु जी, आपने एक चीज नोट किया क्या, वो सतनाम को सतनाम जी बुलाते हैं.
जी बिल्कुल.
हाँ. तो वो सारी चीजें मुझे बड़ी अच्छी लगी. मतलब ये दो रिलेशनशिप्स मुझे अच्छे लगे, 2-3 रिलेशनशिप. बट उसके अलावा मुझे तो रिलेशनशिप में ही प्रॉब्लम है ना सीरीज के अंदर. मैं उसमें क्या बताऊं आपको.
फिर भी आपने बहुत अच्छा आंसर दिया.
थैंक यू. एक मार्क का 5 मार्क कर दिया ना.
नहीं, आपको 100 मार्क इसके लिए.
अच्छा आशु जी, मैंने आपको शुरू में कहा था ना कि रिमाइंड मी, आई वांटेड टू से समथिंग अबाउट द डॉटर.
या
अच्छा, तो आपका सवाल था कि वो क्यों खुश नहीं है, सब कुछ उसको मिल रहा है. तो उन्होंने उसको जस्टिफाई इस तरीके से किया, आफ्टर शी ट्राइज टू टेक हर ओन लाइफ एंड शी इज लाइंग इन हॉस्पिटल and she's saved and everything. So there's this very emotional conversation between her, probably the only real conversation that Balbir has with her. That's when she tells him, now that really hit me, because, and then he goes out and he says she's spoken the truth. Because why is she unhappy? She tells him, I always wanted to study, you didn't want. Yeah. So the mother has also taken her own life because they never got along. He was a physical abuser. He's not a great guy by any stretch of imagination, Balbir Singh, in his personal life. And then she says that I wanted to study, you didn't allow me, and you wanted to get rid of me because I probably remind you too much of my mother. So you got me married off. I didn't want to get married. I told my husband I don't want to have a child, but he doesn't listen. Nobody listens to me. What about the person that I love? So what is there in it for her? Why should she live? And she says, you're mistaken if you think that I don't love Golu. I love him, but I also did not want to have a child.
So I have a simple question.
Ji.
She told the father that I want to study, I don't want to get married. And the father gets her married. Fine. Understood. She must have told the husband that I don't want a child, but there was a child. But if you see in the entire film, the entire series, I think one of the only positive guys right through the entire series is the husband. He's the only one who seems to be completely straight. Did she even once go back to the husband and say, I feel like studying? And he said, no, you can't study.
So she says that they have revealed that very nicely in a very underlying way. She tells her father, I even got a husband who's a copy of you. He's just like you.
Oh,
she says that to him.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. And a copy like him, but nowhere. See, so what have you said? That Balbir is abusive. Balbir abuses his relationship with his own wife. Although he loves his daughter, he's not been physically, I mean, he doesn't really hit her or in any way. But nowhere have you shown that the husband is a wife beater.
No,
Never.
and
In fact,
there are different types of abusive relationships. There's emotional उसका कुछ भी, उस औरत का कुछ भी, उसकी कोई भी सुनाई नहीं की गई. That is an emotional abuse. That's not physical. It doesn't have to be physically violent with her.
देखिए क्या है ना, मैं आपको एक बात बताऊं, मैं बहुत क्लोजली मतलब बहुत सारी चीजों को स्टडी करता हूं. ये पीने वालों को पीने का बहाना चाहिए वाला चक्कर है. बड़ी सिंपल सी बात है. एक बात को अगर आपने पकड़ के बोल दिया कि मैंने ये बोला था और उसने नहीं किया, इसका क्या मतलब सारी की सारी बातें उसने ना कर दी? उसका ख्याल रखता है, उसके लिए आता है, उसकी चीजों का ध्यान रखता है, उसके हॉस्पिटल में उसके साथ बैठता है, सारी चीजें वो कर रहा है. As a husband, he is being a very obedient husband. The only thing he probably must have done is, I want a son, okay, I want a child. इतना बड़ा गुनाह तो नहीं किया उसने, लेकिन उसके एवज में क्या उस लड़की ने उसके ऊपर कॉन्फिडेंस रखा किसी चीज के बारे में बोल के, कि मैंने उसको जब बोला वो मेरी कोई बात नहीं मानता? कभी ऐसा कुछ बोला? एक लाइन में बोल देता वो. क्योंकि वो सारी चीज आपको दिखती है बाप के साथ, कि बाप को जब कुछ बोलने की कोशिश करती बाप मानता नहीं है, वो दिखता है. लेकिन ये चीज हस्बैंड के साथ नहीं दिखता.
वो उन्हें दिखाया नहीं होगा. This takes me back to a movie made by Karan Johar, where nobody in the world could understand why Rani Mukherjee wanted to leave Abhishek Bachchan, because Abhishek Bachchan was such a lovely character. And also in the meantime, this girl fell in.
This interesting conversation took you back to
Yeah,
Kabhi Alvida
I
Na
know,
कभी
I
अलविदा
know.
ना कहना. और
To
लोग
come cank.
मेरे जिम में ना, जब वो देखी थी, जब मैं जिम में जाती थी बैंगलोर में, वहां पे जो लेडीज आती थी वो इतनी गुस्सा हो गई, करण जौहर को गालियां देती थी कि इन्होंने कैसी फिल्म बनाई है ये, सोसाइटी को क्या सिखा रहे हैं. इतना अच्छा तो था वो बेचारा अभिषेक बच्चन, उसको कैसे छोड़ सकती है, इतना तो अच्छा. पंजाबी एंड गुजराती लेडीज, एंड दे कुडंट अंडरस्टैंड बिकॉज दे कांट. सो देयर इज आल्सो इन दिस केस, in that Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, of course, is not the same, but isme she also fell in love with another guy. She started, because she's not happy with her husband or her life or whatever, she has gone back and resurrected her relationship with her boyfriend in college. So she's in love with him now.
What's Sandeep's take on this relationship?
Before that, Nalini, I must say that that was some Christopher Nolan level of jump to go from Kohrra to Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. Or what?
Not Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna.
Yeah, they're all interchangeable. Kabhi Alvida.
You're right. You're right.
So I haven't seen that, so I can't comment. But regarding this, Nalini, I think I kind of bend towards your interpretation of this, because what I felt from whatever was shown, and most of it was not shown, which what Ashuji is pointing out is correct. We do not get to see, but probably it was left out by design. But what I took away from that is, on paper, जो कहते हैं ना कि पति ऐसा होना चाहिए, whatever the definition is, and then there are other definitions of someone who's not a good husband, who's probably cheating or is abusive to the wife, either physically or emotionally, and all of those things. A person could be doing none of those things, even emotional abuse or any other kind, and yet that those two people might not be incompatible. It is just something that the girl wants, which this person is not able to give it to her, whether it is understanding or time or whatever it is. And I can also understand why the Balbir Singh character does not understand it.
Yeah.
He is not designed that way. This is something
exactly
he does not understand till late. And even then, I don't think he completely understands it. It's just that he has seen the repercussions of parents not letting their kids do what they want and listening to them for a change. And hence he takes that step. I don't think even he understands. Any person with that kind of an experience and thought process behind him at this stage of advanced stage of life, I don't think would ever understand.
Yeah.
क्या है ना Sandeep, I'll tell you, with all due respect, and I respect your opinion, yours and Nalini's both. My point is, we are in the business of mass communication. When you do something like this, you're trying to create a point where you communicate to the masses, generally speaking, and you don't leave anything to your imagination to a large level. In this communication, in this business of mass communication, what you are saying is sort of I don't see it, and I'm a filmmaker, and for me doing films and studying films and writing stories is an everyday affair. And for me, it's a very simple thing that if you want to point this out, that your daughter is unhappy for whatever reason, it's a very simple thing for them to have added one line or one shot. I said in the beginning of the entire episode that this probably would have worked brilliantly had it been a 4 episode series or a 5 episode series, because at least 1 hour of this entire communication, I thought it was dragging its feet and holding it back. Then, when you've got so much time to say other stuff, this little communication should have gone through if you want to say that. Otherwise, I have a feeling that, lots of people always blame the outside world and never see within. And for me, the problem is the girl, not the husband. It's a very clear-cut communication that I'm getting through whatever that they're saying. You've painted the husband in a way where even the father-in-law respects him. He respects the father-in-law. And at some point of time, we in our society say that the girl somewhere is looking for a husband who's like the father. In this case, it's different. That's why she probably detests him and doesn't want to be with him, because she believes that I'm getting my father back and I hate my father. I don't like my father, so I want to get out of this relationship. But despite that, I don't see, for me, like I said, I feel the girl is the problem, not the guy. And hence the relationship is skewed.
So, Ashuji, if I try to summarize it, and I'm looking at from your point of view also, so what you're trying to say is basically, or rather, let me say how I look at it, is that Nalini ji and I are probably filling in the gaps in this that are there in the screenplay through our projections and saying that this is what it could have happened, but from a purely screenplay perspective and communicating it out perspective, you're saying that point has not come out clearly.
Yeah, true. And as a filmmaker, the first thing that you've been taught as a filmmaker is to make sure that your communication is clear. If you write a screenplay, you're supposed to make sure that what you're trying to insinuate, at times when it is insinuation is fine. You can, even that insinuation is fairly clear actually, but something so big as this. Anyway, I think it's a minor plot point which is gone.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that there are marriages and then there are marriages and then there are marriages. In every marriage, it's not necessary that a person walks out of a marriage because the other person is bad. A person walks out of the marriage when that person is not feeling fulfilled. That person is also ridden with guilt that, there's nothing wrong with my partner. Maybe it's all me. But marriages break because you're not getting. And if you remember, the lawyer comes to the house when she wants to file for divorce. He asks her about their sexual compatibility. She says, well, that was okay. There was no problem. He asks her, does he ever beat you? She says, no, that's not been, except maybe once or something. And he asks everything. So then he says, then he's also confounded. He doesn't know on what basis they're going to file for divorce. So anyway, he leaves. So I'm going to come back to Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna. There was no outward reason in the screenplay, or probably in the writer or the director's head, that this Rani Mukherjee is unhappy in the marriage. If at all, they only showed it in a very superficial way that Rani Mukherjee has got OCD. She's always cleaning and this guy is messy. And there's one very telling dialogue in Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna also, where she says to him, "Tum bacche mat bano," and he flares up and he says, "I've had enough. Don't keep on calling me a bacha, 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 bacha." And that's how. So there's actually no outward reason, but she's unhappy.
But there is an incompatibility there.
Yes.
And I'll tell you one thing, Nalini ji, I just want to say one thing. and then I'll just stop this because otherwise we keep going. We can agree to disagree in this. But
आशु जी, this conversation is very lovely. और मैं
yeah,
और एक बात
so
कहना चाहता हूँ, एक बात और कहना चाहता हूँ. Appreciation of Sandeep. Sandeep's conversation never felt that he is the guest of our show. It felt that कि वो 14 या 15 एपिसोड से abscond कर रहे हैं, आज आए हैं.
Yeah, Sandeep.
yeah, that's the brilliance of it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, in fact, that one scene with the lawyer, which she has, the divorce lawyer, says everything, and I rest my case there. That's it. Now we can agree to disagree.
Yeah, but I was communicated what I think they were trying to communicate. That communication reached me. It didn't reach you, but as an audience, it reached me. What I got from it is what I'm telling you, and what you got from it is what you're saying. So we are on different poles apart on this, but whatever I think the writer was trying to say and in an underlying manner, because a lot of the relationships in this show, it's all underlying. And also, Sandeep, to come back to your point, that he's actually guilt-ridden. That's why also you're absolutely right that he probably, as the father, is not able to understand his daughter's dilemma to the extent that he probably could have if he was of a different mindset. But he gives in and he goes out, he sits on that bench. When the husband asks the father, what did she say? His reply
I
is...
like to add one point, Nalini ji and
हाँ जी,
Ashu ji and
बिल्कुल,
Sandeep.
बिल्कुल.
One point is, this guy, Suvinder's character, is very selfish. वो हमेशा पूरे शो में अपने बारे में ही सोचा है. वो कभी किसी के बारे में नहीं सोचा है. He always thought about his job, his like his inner peace. Every time he thought about only about him.
सही है. He even committed a murder because he wanted to save his ass.
Exactly.
By the way, Nalini, one side effect of this conversation is
Yes.
that you've given out the spoiler of Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum for me.
कभी खुशी कभी गम की, कभी
कभी अलविदा ना कहना for me.
अच्छा सुने संदीप, मैंने तो सिर्फ ये कहा कि रानी मुखर्जी क्यों छोड़ना चाहती, मैंने ये तो नहीं कहा ना उसके बाद क्या होता है, तो अभी भी स्पॉइलर नहीं है.
बट आई एम थिंकिंग कि ये स्पॉइलर क्यों है संदीप के लिए. व्हाई यू शुड वॉच कभी अलविदा ना कहना.
No, I don't intend to watch it.
संदीप, मुझे एक ही बात कहना संदीप से कि तुम्हें देखो ना ये क्या हो गए.
पर संदीप इसका म्यूजिक अच्छा है, कभी अलविदा कितना कहना का म्यूजिक, गाने तो मुझे अच्छे लगे थे, नहीं सौरभ? आशु जी, गाने तो अच्छे थे.
म्यूजिक वाज रियली गुड.
और संदीप
म्यूजिक वाज गुड.
या और संदीप इसमें ना कभी अलविदा ना कहना में सारे कलर कोऑर्डिनेटेड गाने हैं, fully color coordinated,
which actually was inspired from Mani Ratnam.
Yeah, but Mani Ratnam was much better. This was so I didn't much care for this.
Obviously कि Mani Ratnam का ही अच्छा है.
Yeah. Anyway, आशु जी आप कुछ कह रहे थे?
हाँ, मैं सिर्फ यही कहना चाह रहा था कि as far as this show is concerned, जितने स्पॉयलर्स इस शो के हैं वो सारे के सारे सौरभ ने दिए.
हाँ, मैंने दिए.
I
am the one. I am the Kajol is the killer guy. but I genuinely I felt that this the only part where you were talking about Harley City and Suvinder's character is the best part of this podcast.
Yeah. अच्छा सुनो, एक सबसे फेवरेट डायलॉग इसमें है जब वो मार रहे होते हैं ना, वो 4 नशेड़ी होते हैं, नंगे पुंगे होते हैं वो सारे, याद है ना? तो फिर वो पता नहीं कौन आता है अंदर कमरे में और कहता है कि वो कबड्डी की टूर्नामेंट है और वहां पे अभिषेक और ऐश्वर्या भी आ रहे हैं. तो एक जो नंगू पंगू है जिसको बहुत मार लगी, वो खड़े होके बोलता है ऐश्वर्या भी आ रही है क्या?
Yeah, that depicts वो डार्क ह्यूमर जो है वो बहुत बढ़िया
बहुत बढ़िया है.
It was a very little like blink and you miss it kind of a moment, but it really came out nice. Like I laughed out loud at that, looking at that.
Yeah. और
डार्क ह्यूमर जो है, आई थिंक रणदीप झा हैज दिस मास्टरी ऑफ डार्क ह्यूमर.
और सौरभ, हमने उस पुलिस ऑफिसर की बिल्कुल भी बात नहीं की जो बलबीर सिंह के सीनियर होते हैं. हाँ, एसएसपी होते नहीं, एसएसपी से सीनियर, जो
उसका बात इसलिए नहीं करते बिकॉज आपको उसका सिचुएशन तो पता ही है ना.
Exactly.
I think that is a convenient thing,
Oh,
convenient
yes.
plot हो सकता है क्योंकि because Suvinder is not a senior police officer, but still he is solving the case. तो आप बहुत सारे पिक्चरों में ये आपने एक ट्रोप देखा होगा where the police officer, the protagonist is lower level में होगा या तो वो सस्पेंडेड ऑफिसर होगा और वो अचानक से एक सीन में आके बोलेगा कि मुझे ये केस सॉल्व करना है, मुझे ये केस में इंटरेस्ट है। बट ये डायरेक्ट मतलब स्टार्टिंग से केस सॉल्व कर रहा है क्योंकि उसके जो सीनियर वो उनको सिचुएशन कुछ अलग है।
अलग है।
Yeah.
At the cost of repeating myself, I must point out that this is the exact situation that was there in Pataldo. If any of you remember, Chedi Palawat's senior, immediate senior, doesn't do anything to do with the investigation, and they bypass him again. Writing hack like Saurabh mentioned, right? And they bypassed him so that Jaideep Palawat could take the lead on the case, and his immediate senior doesn't really do anything except throw a couple of roadblocks in his path at least. But here I liked it because they made it funny. It became funny after a point of time, but again, same trope.
Yeah. I have one more. I felt one more thing in the show while I was watching कि वरुण सोपती को जबरदस्ती का हीरो दिखाने का कोशिश किया है. The all police brutality is done by Varun Sobti in the film.
Yeah.
In the show. And there is one more scene where like he kidnap हो जाते हैं सुविंदर. तो वो जो से बचाने के लिए जाते हैं, there is a single shot and all. So I felt that वो वरुण सोपती को जानबूझ के हीरो दिखाने की कोशिश की है.
बिल्कुल.
Did you feel that?
I absolutely felt it, and also Saurabh, you reminded me कि उसमें भी वो तो trope है ना, हमारी पुलिस हमेशा 1 घंटा बाद ही पहुंचती है ना, वो definitely मुझे लगा, जो आप कह रहे हो ना, I agree with.
Yeah.
बिल्कुल.
संदीप आपको लगा ऐसा, आशु जी?
I think because I have not followed any of his previous work, so I didn't know who he is basically. So that thought didn't come to my mind. I just kind of saw it as a moment of rage in him and whatever he feels about Balbir and seeing Balbir's life threatened. He just took that rash decision in that moment of anger to go all in, and he did not wait. So that is how I saw it. But yeah, what you're saying now makes sense.
Yeah.
Convenient hai.
As a practical filmmaker, I'll tell you, pan India and otherwise also, Barun Sopti probably is a bigger star than his counterpart.
Oh, of course.
And
he is. Yes.
yeah, and as a result of which, most of the time, Barun Sopti is only playing second fiddle right through the entire series. And I know that for a fact that he's got a following and people, and he's got a lot of fans, and they need to justify that character also. And he's younger as well, and he's a little so they've given that to him, and I'm okay with that. From a filmmaker point of view, also, and from the story point of view, it doesn't really bother me. In fact, it just builds the relationship a little more, like I said earlier. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
इसमें एक डायलॉग है ना आशु जी, एंड में आता है. He says, no, Barun Sopti, this Balbir Singh, very subtly he looks at him and he says, throughout our lives, we don't understand our families only. Forget anything else. That's why I'm saying this is a show more about relationships, about families. Look at Manna Dhillon's relationship with his son. He's always belittling his own son, so much so that he pushes his son to spit in his drink. That son actually spits in his whiskey glass, if you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible, but he does it. Of course, he hates Paul. He is the first person in that entire clan, apart from Rachel Shelley, to actually figure out that these two are gay, because he's the one he keeps looking at those photographs. And Balbir Singh, for all his thing about, women should be like this or whatever, look what he's doing. He's attracted to the woman of the guy he's killed. So it's okay for him to do that, but his daughter can't have a boyfriend. So a lot of double standards.
And that वो show जो जब end होता है उसी से end होता है. That lady, she opens that door, उसके बाद end होता है.
Yes, and he has that smile. It's the first time in the show that he actually has a smile because she's inviting him home. So for me, actually speaking, Ashuji, looking at it from that point of view, and maybe I'm being judgmental, But for me, that part didn't work because, my God, he did kill my husband. Yeah. And when I find that out, how can I have a relationship with this guy? That's probably
True.
the only thing that did not sit well with me at all. And of course, that Barun Sobti's family situation was a revelation that, oh, this also happens. And look at the husband. Look at Barun Sobti's character's brother. He knows everything.
मतलब वो क्या कैरेक्टर है ना कि इस किस्म का किरदार कैसे हो सकता है?
मुझे मेरा एक सवाल है नलिनी जी, आशु जी एंड संदीप
जी
कि वो जब सुविंदर का कैरेक्टर वो हरलीन सेठी के बॉयफ्रेंड को मारता है,
जी
आफ्टर दैट व्हाई ही क्राइज?
humiliation, I guess. Saurabh, I don't know. Sandeep, what do you have to say about that?
Why does the boyfriend cry? I think it was humiliation. Yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
I concur.
Saurabh, also I have a question for all three of you. Why was Nobi killed?
Maybe he knows the information about minister, that's why.
Could be. Yeah. They've left it like open. Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I also didn't, not that it mattered, I didn't get any other reading out of that. It was just for the payback for him to get what he wanted from the minister. He shot him off, and the details of Vicky and other things are just not mentioned in the show. So I just read it as a payback and, moved ahead with.
Yeah, so even you're right. Even I didn't read into it too much. I said, okay, okay, that's what his character is. They're just trying to define Balvinder's character over here. That he can even do an encounter because of to do a favor to somebody or get out of a situation. That's his character, and they didn't need to go into the backstory of that.
विच इज जैसे कि संदीप हमेशा पाताल लोक वो सिमिलर लगता है, वैसे ही मुझे हलाहल सिमिलर लगता है, क्योंकि हलाहल पिक्चर में भी ऐसा एक सीन, मतलब ऐसा एक ट्रोप है उसके अंदर, दैट एवरीवन नोस समथिंग सीक्रेट. वो मिनिस्टर से लेके इन्फॉर्मर तक सबको एक सीक्रेट पता है, लाइक दैट.
संदीप, हमारे अतिथि, आप कुछ बोलिए या आप बंद करें?
आई थिंक जो कुछ कवर करना था हमने मोस्टली सब कर ही लिया है.
ठीक है.
बट संदीप, डू यू वांट टू से एनीथिंग व्हिच यू फेल्ट व्हिच वी नेवर डिस्कस्ड, एनीथिंग लाइक?
Yeah, the only thing probably I would like to just touch upon is Manish Chaudhary's acting. I mean, that guy has always been on the fringe of shows, and I mean, going back all the way to Powder, which is what in a way was a web series OG before there were web shows. He's always been on the fringe, and whenever he gets a good role, he always keeps performing. But somehow, if you think of the good actors, name of a list of good actors in this space, Manish Chaudhary's name might not come out, but he has truly been delivering good performance after performances in whatever roles he keeps getting.
You're absolutely right. He's done a fabulous job in this, really.
But I think CID is better than Kohrra.
दस्तानों की वजह से, दस्तानों की वजह से. और सौरभ, यहाँ पे कोई दरवाजा भी नहीं तोड़ता, सब ठोकते हैं.
Exactly, I'm disappointed. No daya.
Saurabh,
दया दिखाओ दरवाजों पे.
your kind of a question. If there was ever a spin-off made of CID, what would it be called?
My God, that is a very interesting question यार. मैं prepared नहीं था इसके लिए.
बताओ.
हाँ, because आपने हमेशा बीबा बच्चों के साथ में शो किया है ना, अब आपके पास में आपके टक्कर वाला बंदा आ गया.
हाँ, ये ईगल बिच्छू हो गया ये. and now I'm in बिच्छू's position. पता नहीं क्या आंसर दूं यार. Spin-off.
Think spin-offs of popular English shows.
No, Sandeep, I think spin-off होना चाहिए, but spin-off through Daya's point of view और अभिजीत's point of view, क्योंकि दया एंड अभिजीत 20-21 साल होने के बाद भी वो मतलब एसीपी नहीं बने, हमेशा सब इंस्पेक्टर ही थे.
जैसे हमारा बलबीर सब इंस्पेक्टर ही रह गया हमारा.
Yeah, I want a spin-off where Daya is fighting for being a ACP.
अच्छा.
But if they put it on through another character's perspective,
yeah,
then it can be named Better Call Salukya.
Yeah, better.
Which is something a friend of mine just had made this some days. I mean, made this statement some days back. It's actually funny because that is who they call literally.
Yeah, you're right actually.
So let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I want to ask Saurabh one question. Sorry.
Hmm.
Saurabh,
बोले
वो एक कैफे में जाते हैं सौरभ, तो उस कैफे का नाम क्या है? 2-3 बार दिखाते हैं शो में.
Americano or some American
Americano.
or something.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah.
American.
No,
American something.
no. America Return Cafe. But you know, Saurabh is
something
very
like.
good at all these things. He notices the.
हाँ, ये मैंने notice किया था actually.
हाँ.
And that cafe also reminded me of all those Hollywood movies जिसमें cafe दिखाते हैं.
हाँ.
The way they depict the cafes, especially Pulp Fiction, मुझे बहुत याद आया वो scene देख के.
अच्छा.
मुझे एक सवाल पूछना. The last question from me is, what is the moral of the story from this show?
Sandeep, he's going into some other level. You answer first, Sandeep.
बच्चों की सुनो.
हाँ. तालियां, 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 तालियां. अब संदीप, आप नोलन को फिर याद करोगे, लेकिन मैं एक फिल्म बनी थी 10 लाख, उसमें एक गाना था संदीप, गरीबों की सुनो वो
हे भगवान.
तुम्हारी
I was gonna complete that line with that song, but then better wisdom prevailed. I stopped myself. I was this close to completing it.
पर मुझे सबसे अच्छा क्या लगा पता है? कि आखिरी सवाल 3 बार पूछा सौरभ ने.
हाँ, मैं हमेशा बीच में पूछता हूँ आखिरी सवाल.
You know, Sandeep, just for your reference, every time when we are about to end the show, and we say, okay, so now let's end it, and suddenly Saurabh will say, no, one question, I got एक last question.
और मेरा इस बार लास्ट क्वेश्चन 3 बार हुआ.
Oh gosh.
Ajay, I had a question for all three of you.
Yes.
Because this is again something that I've been thinking after watching a lot of these shows. How much of cop drama is too much? The good ones also often end up being the ones that are cop dramas, actually, if you think about it. At least the ones most talked about. So is it also setting it in, Punjab or say rural Haryana, in places like this? Aren't we seeing a lot more of this happening on the OTT space, at least? What do you guys think?
I think I also felt this कि बहुत हो रहा है ये. Actually, I am a little bit tired of, because I love this genre, but still I am tired of this कि बहुत who done it, बहुत thriller, बहुत dark हो रहा है, even in web series and movies both. I actually need a very silly comedy, self-aware comedy, अंदाज अपना अपना type या airplanes type, something like that. ये बहुत हो रहा है, like dark, and the character is very disturbed and he has a past. बहुत yeah यार.
Yeah. आशु जी?
मेरा कुछ थोड़ा सा अलग टेक है. मेरे लिए क्या है कि yes, it's too much is being shown and too much exposure is there, but this is on the international forum. Even when you watch Netflixes and Amazons and other places, most of the times you'll find thrillers and cop dramas and all only happening over there also, even over there. Now the point is, it just throws up a bigger challenge for the writers and the directors now. So they have to keep thinking of ways of presenting the same cop drama in a way that makes it, or it feels fresh. And honestly speaking, as much as you want to see it, as long as you make it well, you present it well, you will have an audience and you will see it. But if it is going to keep going back into the same beaten, oft repeated tracks every single point of time where it becomes predictable, that show, you will only end up saying that, "Bas, I've seen enough. I don't want to see more."
Have you this is a question for all the three, Nalini ji, Ashu ji, and Sandeep. Have you seen any web show, particularly web show, which is a spoof web show? मतलब बहुत सारे popular web show का spoof हो एक web
No,
show.
I have not.
ऐसा कभी आपने देखा है क्या?
No.
I have not seen.
There is an Indian web show, actually.
Okay.
but it's not a spoof on other web shows. It's a spoof on the entire Ramsey brother universe. Shaitanavedi by Varun Thakur.
Yeah, I know that.
That's probably the only one in terms of spoof.
But I need a spoof where they're spoofing the web shows.
Ah,
वैसा कुछ होना चाहिए. Yeah.
Okay, so have we come to the end of this podcast? Have we covered everything that everybody wants to talk about? Any last thoughts? I will come to my guest first. Sandeep, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. This was an absolute pleasure to have you. And like Saurabh very rightly said, it didn't seem like you weren't with us in all these other podcasts. So thank you so much. Anything you would like to say before we end?
yeah, thank you thanks to all of you for having me here. And in fact, I also felt the same, that it's just a continuation of a conversation that we have had in the past. I did not feel new to me, so there was no discomfort or anything, and thanks to you people for that. Uh, to summarize on the show, basically what I would like to say is I absolutely love the performances, uh, the writing as well at certain places, but overall it left me wanting for more. It could have been much better. I could see the potential, but owing to certain tropes and things already seen earlier, I would just call it about decent. Like, I watched it, I might not remember it in the long run.
Saurabh?
I do. The question which I asked, I don't know about the moral of the story of the show, but I understood a moral of the show, moral of the story of this podcast episode. अगर आपको ये show बुरा लगा, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है that you have nothing to talk about it. You can talk very interesting more than the people who like the show. That's the moral of the story from this podcast.
Ashuji?
Well, so I agree with Sandeep that in the long run, I don't know whether I'll remember the show. Yes, I've seen it and I binge watched it, and like I said, there are always good things in a lot of good places that you can watch. मेरे को performances बहुत अच्छे लगे इसके अंदर, मेरे को locations बहुत अच्छी लगी है, कपड़े, styling, all that is very good. Some places the dialogue, even the humor is nice. But for me, I thought this was a show that was stretched beyond its life, and that's why for me the show was dragging its feet. It could have been better show if they had concised it in a smaller time, or had they added some more interesting plot points that drove the story further and better. But that's my point of view again.
All right, thank you. As for me, I really like the show. I love this podcast that we've done on it. I think it's thrown up so many things. This is one of the shows that will stay with me, and if only for one reason, and that is Suvinder Vicky. It's very seldom that we see a performance where the actor is actually living the role, and whenever I see something like that, it stays with me. So Kohrra is going to stay with me, even though I had quite a few questions about the plot points. I understand it to be a show. Yes, it's a murder investigation, but for me, it was a show that came across as relationships between parents, children, between brother-in-law, sister-in-law, with the secrets that people are hiding. And in that, there is a murder that takes place. And then there's another murder. And then there's another murder. So for me, I love the fact that this show showed the cops pretty real, not like heroes. And I had questions which we put in the podcast, but I like the show and I would recommend it to other people. And more than the show, I have loved this podcast. So on that note, listeners, we will be back again with another interesting podcast for you next week. And thank you so much, Shah, your love on us. And like we always say, this is an independent podcast and we need all your support. And we are loving all the feedback that we get. This is going to be another longish podcast, but I think this deserves it. So thank you and good night to everybody.
Yes, thank you everybody for being patient with us and listening to us so in a good way. And we've got some very, very good feedback. And fortunately for us, this time we've had a listener to join us, and we've been so happy to have his points of view, his thoughts, and we believe that he really is part of the family and has put in some really brilliant points as far as the show is concerned. Sandeep, thank you for being with us, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have, because we always have great fun in every single podcast. Until then, until the next time, where we'll come in hopefully with a better one as well. See you all.
I just want to say that it's an independent podcast, so do follow us. If you liked our conversation, do follow us on Spotify. We are available on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. So do listen there also and share, subscribe, and show your love. और क्या पता आप भी संदीप की तरह हमारे साथ ज्वाइन करेंगे. So
अरे वाह, संदीप आप बाय बाय बोलेंगे, गुड बाय बोलेंगे?
Yeah, so thanks to all three of you, and good night and goodbye to all your listeners. And I really had fun in having this conversation with fellow cinephiles.